anybody went before winning a Grand Slam title. Were there not times when you just thought, I need a break?
Oh yes, of course, but this is human. But then how you bounce back, this is the most interesting part. Of course, I'm very proud if I can prove that of what I achieved. But also I'm proud of the way I bounced back from defeat, from loss, from depression almost, because when I was losing a match, I thought I should have won. I could stay 3 days inside my hotel room without speaking to anyone.
Parking mode disabled.
Having asked you about the Australians, it must seem like an odd question to ask you whether you think that actually women's tennis, perhaps for the Grand Slams, should go to best of 5 sets rather than best of 3.
Please.
Why?
No, we're just so tired. I mean, 5 sets for women. We already played for all the years, so many matches. I mean,
you probably heard Andy Murray say this. I think the women should play best of 5 sets. I don't see why they couldn't do it. Maybe it doesn't have to be from the first rounds. You know that there's grinding of teeth among male players, not because of equal prize money, but it's because some women's tennis games last 45 minutes.
Oh my gosh, don't give me that. I mean, there is so much to about there's Federer that last 1 hour and 20 minutes. Honestly, I can't take this. A woman can't do the same physical, just can't have the same physical abilities as a man. It's just not humanly possible.
Except it used to be said, for example, that, women couldn't run the marathon. And there are those who argue that the problem about not having a 5-set match is that, in the words of one sports journalist last year, it perpetuates the myth of the weaker sex.
I'm starting to commentate now, and I saw some men's matches that last an hour and 20 minutes. Don't say to me that some women's matches last 45 minutes and we're almost so lazy that we can. I mean, there is so many matches that goes for 2 hours 45, 3 hours on the court, and it's a lot for women, believe me.
How far do you think that the women's game is still tainted by sexism? I mean, you had to deal, I hesitate to word this, but you have to deal with an astonishingly crass comment by a commentator, Darren Bell, last year, as you were winning Wimbledon. He said, the reason you've got such a sort of fighting style on the court is, he said, because your father may have told you that you weren't a looker. There is still a measure of sexism around the game.
A man will be judged only on his tennis results, and I don't see Stan Wawrinka being judged on his looking. And a woman will be going to get some comments on how she looks, but I think it's the way in every department. It's not only in tennis. That's the way the world is on tennis. So we can that, yes, absolutely. But I don't think some people they are supermodel either.
You said that you are playing
Did you check is there damage to the bus?
And I think you're going to be playing in an exhibition match in Wimbledon this coming summer. When you do step on a tennis court now, do you still have that hunger to win?
Oh yeah. That is ridiculous. Of course I have to win still, but when I'm playing and you hear me laugh for 100 meters away, I just have so much fun.
That was the Wimbledon champion Marion Bartoli speaking to NewsHour's Tim Franks. You can hear the full version of that interview on Hard Talk. It's playing today here on the BBC World Service. Let's just recap our main headlines this hour. The US severely criticised the Roman Catholic Church for adopting policies which allow priests to rape and molest thousands of children. Vatican said it will study the report. And gay activists around the world are staging a day of protest against Russia's controversial laws on homosexuality. The day the Olympic torch arrived in Sochi. Now, pain is something that we all experience in our lifetimes, and many of us will have taken medicines or other measures to try to control pain at one time or another. But might you be able to control it simply by changing your lifestyle? That's the possibility raised by British researchers who say that our sensitivity to pain is controlled by what they call a genetic dimmer switch, which could be reset. Well, Dr. Jordana Bell's been leading the research into this, and she's with me now in the studio. Welcome to the program. What do you mean by a genetic dimmer switch?
Thank you. So we've been looking at the so-called epigenetic mechanism are chemical changes on top of the DNA that control the way that gene code is expressed. So we have many of these changes throughout our genome, and their key role is not changing the genetic sequence, but the way in which genes function.
Right, so it's the way genes behave. And it was very interesting how you tested this, because you used twins. Just explain.
Right. So we know that pain sensitivity is controlled by both genetics and environment, and what we've done is to test pain in over 1,000 twins in our cohort. We then went on to select the most discordant twins who were genetically identical. So we picked 25 pairs of genetically identical discordant pain twins, and in each one of these we looked at their epigenetic changes, or these so-called chemical modifications.
So the twins are identical, genetically absolutely identical, but their sensitivity to pain is different, and you're trying to find out why.
Why? That's right. Yes. The sequence of the DNA is identical, but the chemical modifications on top of the DNA may be different. And in fact, we did find many differences. So we tested 5 million of these differences, and only 9 of them strongly associated with pain. We then confirmed these findings in another 50 unrelated individuals.
So what is causing those changes then?
Because the twins are genetically identical, so the DNA sequence is unlikely to be causing these changes. So things like lifestyle, environmental factors, previous exposure to pain or related factors, medication use, they all are contributing to the Timmer switch, if you like, the chemical change that impacts gene expression and potentially modifies the gene.
Would that involve finding out chemicals that can make those or reverse those modifications?
That's right, and we're currently doing new research over the past years looking into epigenetic editing of our genome, so potentially there could be therapies coming out soon that can apply to these specific changes and reduce it.
So in the future we're talking about what, a new approach to dealing with pain, new medicine?
That's the potential, yes.
And how far is that away? That's always the big question, isn't it? I mean, is it still years away, do you think?
I think it's likely that new therapies could come out of this in the near future, not in a year or so.
A year or so. Okay. Dr. Jordana Bell of King's College London, many thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Now, the pop star Prince. He's always been something of an enigma. He almost never gives interviews and doesn't perform much these days, despite his elfin appearance.
As admitted that some of his most famous classical pieces were written by someone else. Some of the most memorable stories in the lives and other composers for nearly 20 years. This report from Michael Bristow. Symphony No. 1, Hiroshima, written for those killed in the atomic attack on the Japanese city in the Second World War. The deaf composer Mamoru Tamagotchi has now sensationally revealed that he didn't write his famous piece, and the others he's credited with. They were composed by a musician who began helping Tamagotchi when he started going deaf. The composer has apologized to his fans, his record company, but he was flabbergasted. Michael Bristow, BBC News.
You're listening to the BBC World Service. Hello, I'm James Menendez with NewsHour, and coming up in this programme. Desperate phone call to the emergency services here in Britain 10 years ago. The result, 23 illegal workers drowned. In China, they're still feeling the effects. We'll be reporting from there in just under 20 minutes' time. First, though, to a scathing report by a UN committee into the way the Roman Catholic Church has failed to deal with tens of thousands of cases of sexual abuse by priests. Indeed, the report by the UN watchdog for children's rights accuses the Vatican of not only failing to punish the offenders, but allowing them to carry on raping and molesting children. The publication of today's report follows the first public grilling of Vatican officials last month. Maria Herzog is a member of that committee. So what exactly did the Vatican do wrong in handling these cases?
Well, actually, many different things. First of all,
the Holy See's past statements and declarations on the child abuse cases occurring within the state, and the denial was obviously a very severe issue because it caused a lot of victims, a lot of pain and damage. Also, the Holy See was in many statements and declarations on homosexuality also contributed to the social stigmatization of and violence against lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender adolescents and those children who were raised by same-sex couples. Also, I guess the preservation of the reputation of the church and the protection of the perpetrators was put above the best interest of children.
Just on that point, how do you know that is the case? Are you certain that they were putting reputation before the children's interest?
Many disclosed cases, like for instance in Ireland, the Magdalena Landry, and a lot of other instances when the priests themselves or those working within the church organizations were to be abused and in a proven way the sexual abuse, exploitation, sexual exploitation of children. Many of these things now, many of them already known, and as the church also paid a lot of compensation in certain countries, and also admitted that these instances happened.
Sorry to interrupt you. Would you describe it as a deliberate attempt to cover up the scale of the problem?
Well, actually, we can't say that. Obviously, on behalf of the delegation from the state party, the representatives of the Holy See said very clearly that they are willing to disclose these cases if they happen, and they don't want to hide them in the future, and they also expressed their deep concern about the past cases that were happening.
What would you like to see happen?
Well, obviously, what we would like to see happen is more transparent, more clear operation, a very clear understanding of the operation of the church-run organizations in all the countries, because obviously we are not talking about the territory of the Vatican City state when we are talking about the Holy City, but also all the supreme power of the Catholic Church through individuals and institutions placed under its authority in the different countries all over the world. So what we want is obviously a very clear statement and also commitment not to hide any offences committed by priests or any other members of the Catholic clergy, and also coping with the national authorities and the local legal systems and the justice system to prevent first of all these cases, and then once it's happening, then protect the victims and provide the needed punishment to the perpetrators.
So in other words, all suspected paedophiles should be handed over to the police?
Yes, and the code of silence imposed by the church, and the fact that reporting to national law enforcement authorities has not been compulsory so far. Obviously, this has to be changed.
Is it fair to call what's happened, all these tens of thousands of cases of sexual abuse? I mean, are we talking institutional abuse? Is that a fair term?
Yes. Well, we use this terminology in different contexts. Institutional abuse also occurs when it's happening in an institution of any kind, in a school, in a residential home. But we can also call institutional abuse when the church or any other authority is misusing its power, and not only individuals are abusing the law and abusing the victims, but also as an institution they are enabling or not stopping the abuse.
That was Maria Herzog of the UN Committee on Children's Rights. Live now to Rome to talk to the BBC's Alan Johnston. And Alan, what's been the response from the Vatican so far?
Well, these days of news
sophisticated news management, you might have expected the Vatican to have its response ready, detailed for battle or acceptance of this point or that point, a sophisticated response. But to be honest, we haven't really had that, just a few paragraphs.